Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the late evening show. It is an interesting episode today because we are stuck in a blizzard in New York City. Shout out to all my New York listeners, my New York viewers, my New York watchers, I guess you can say. That sounds a little stalkerish, but yeah, man, to anybody out here in the NYC area, Connecticut, New Jersey, we're fucked. You know how this shit is, man. This is the Blizzard pod right now. I've honestly I've gotten prepared for it. I have a mountain of toilet paper outside of the camera shot. I got everything I need. I got my booze, right? It's gonna be one of those nights. It's gonna be one of those. I was supposed to be working today. This is actually why I'm creating this podcast, because you know me, I'm stereotypically late with posting, but today I got the out. You know, and isn't that the best thing in the world when you're working? This usually happens with menial jobs, I feel like, right? Which, you know, I hope a lot of you guys don't have to work. But me, I work a lot of menial jobs, stuff like movers, right? Laborer on like a construction site, right? Food and beverage attendant at like a school or something like that, right? So all these jobs, sometimes, you know, you'll get alerts, right? And they'll be like, yo, you don't have to come in. And so today, I got it. I got one of those. And I will say, it feels amazing as an adult to get a snow day. It feels amazing as an adult to get a snow day, because that's the one thing from your childhood that you'll never get again for most adults, right? You're always having to work. If anything, you work from home remotely. My two roommates it's like 9 o'clock right now. They're still working, okay? Because they work remotely. Me, I get paid half of what they do, so when I get off, I get off. This is the best thing in the world. This isn't just a blizzard. This is a boozy blizzard. I'm happy about it. This is a interesting day, man. Yeah, the snow is coming down, bro. It really is coming down. It's kind of crazy. You know, I think we've learned a little bit from last week or 2 weeks ago, the snow that happened back then, and all the different fuck ups that happened with the city. A couple people even like passed away. There were cars buried under shit. Mamdani and the government, they're doing what they can, but things are just hard, man. It's crazy. And supposedly this one is going to be even worse than the one last time. So I want to see what they're going to be talking about this time when it comes to the city and this blizzard, because this shit is crazy. This shit is crazy. And you know what? A lot of people want to come at Mamdani too when it comes to what he's been doing with the city and this, that, and the third. Obviously, we have the whole property tax situation that is going on, right? Which has a lot of people a little anxious, me included. I'm not a property owner in New York City, but at the same time, it's a high stakes bet. So let's see how he does with this whole snow thing and see what he was talking about earlier today.
Snowfall will become more moderate as Monday progresses, tapering off around 8 p.m. In total, this storm is projected to drop between 18 and 24 inches across New York City, coming up to 28 inches in certain areas. New Yorkers should also expect dangerous winds. Later today, they are predicted to reach 35 miles per hour, with peak speeds of 40 miles per hour and 60 mile per hour isolated gusts occurring tomorrow morning around 8 a.m.
Yeah, they're not playing.
These are blizzard conditions. New York City has not faced a storm of this scale in the last decade. As a result, we expect to see moderate coastal flooding of up to 2.5 feet during high tide.
This is the crazy shit that they've been talking about. They're talking about flooding. Like, that's how you know it's bad, when it's not just snowstorms and like, oh, we got to dig out cars. Bro, they're talking about flooding. This is when the whole New York and Manhattan is on an island thing actually becomes dangerous. Can you imagine? Flooding in general, Hurricane Sandy I was here for, is bad, but flooding and a blizzard is insane. You know, I'll be honest, I've been here for a lot of like New York City monuments, I guess you can say, like monumental events, right? So Sandy Hook was one, Occupy Wall Street was one, the whole George Floyd chaos that was happening, right? And like Chinatown and Manhattan, that was a whole nother thing. I think this is another one. For sure.
The chance of it increasing to 3 feet along Staten Island, the Rockaways, and the Battery. If you are in a coastal area that normally floods during tide cycles, you may see flooding. Please stay alert and make sure to move cars ahead of high tide to higher ground. If you live in a basement apartment, Notify NYC has a special category for you. You can sign up for the basement alert group at nyc.gov/notify.
Dude, can you imagine if your basement gets flooded in this? Having a basement apartment sucks already. I've had basement apartments before. They're cool because you get more room and stuff like that. But, they still kind of suck because they can get cold and it's not great. But having a basement apartment during this shit is like, fucking Christ, man. Because this snow is going to be 2 feet. There's supposed to be 2 feet, possibly more than 2 feet. So if you're in a basement apartment, there's already snow above your window that you use to get fresh air. So if we're looking at it like how a person in the basement lives, you're already underwater, bro. You're already underwater. This is bad, man. This is bad. They've been doing a lot of really interesting stuff, though. I think because they learned from last time, right? So they had a lot of advocacy when it came to homeless people and getting homeless people off the street. Unfortunately, there are still some homeless people who, no matter what, they just don't want to leave the streets. But I think people learned about how dire it was last time, that maybe things will be better this time. They also seem to have additional things, even more warming centers and warming buses. So this is huge, and this is where tax dollars go to, which is why I kind of brought this up, because I think this whole entire thing is very, very interesting, and it kind of plays into this whole thing that Mamdani has with Hochul right now.
We've activated additional high water rescue teams should flooding grow dire, and DEP will also be inspecting catch basins to make sure that water can drain properly. If you see a clogged catch basin, please call 311 to prevent street flooding. Additionally, temperatures dropping into the 20s overnight will result in slippery streets, sidewalks, and extremely hazardous conditions across our city. Due to these factors, we are declaring a state of emergency and instituting a travel ban starting at 9 p.m. this evening and ending at 12 p.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, and this is how you know this shit was bad. Like I said, man, my job was literally like, yo, if you don't want to come in, you don't have to come in. It was funny. Like, as soon as they said it, I cut them off. I was like, it's funny you bring that up because I was not going to come in the first place. And I'm glad that I took them up on their shit because, yo, like, I've been through a lot in New York City and travel bans are not common in any way, shape, or form at all. Like, at all, bro. They are not common. I can't think of the last time where they shut down everything. Like, this is everything. I was even looking into it, looking at my old commute and what it would be today if I just decided to go to work, which I'm not doing. Come on now. They don't pay me enough for that. But the main thing is they cut off, I ride the select bus, right? To and from work a lot of times. They cut off the select bus, right? Pretty much all the subways are done. Like, they really, really shut this shit down, bro. New York doesn't shut down for anything. They legitimately shut this shit down. I think the only thing running right now are like the full-on main lines just to get some people home, like me, if I was, riding around. But apparently, like, all the bridges, like any place where a crazy disaster could happen because of this snow is completely shut down. So all the bridges and everything, it's all done. It's all done. I don't even know. I think there were probably some people who came into work today that work at my job. I don't even know why they did. I don't even know how they would be able to get home. This shit is crazy.
The state of emergency closes the streets, highways, and bridges of New York City for all traffic, cars, trucks, scooters, and e-bikes, with some specific exemptions for essential and emergency movement. We are asking New Yorkers to avoid all non-essential travel. Please, for your safety, stay home, stay inside, and stay off the roads.
And this is facts too, man. He said non-essential, like stay home. I mean this for our DoorDash drivers as well too, bro. Like, stay the fuck home, bro. I've been somebody who was a DoorDash person, Uber Eats person and everything. I know how it is. You want to make your money. Tips are probably through the roof right now. Your shit is probably lighting up right now. Do not go outside. Because one thing I've learned being one of those drivers is that whatever money you get from today is going to have to last you for the next like 5 or 6 days, right? Because whenever you work on a day like this where it's crazy out, where there's rain or sleet, snow, whatever the fuck, it's gonna stall you or it's gonna delay you so that you can't work the next day. Like whether it's your equipment breaking down, whether it's all your clothes getting soaked. Remember, you're broke, so there's a reason why you worked in something this crazy. So if something happens to your equipment or your clothes or whatever, it's not something you could easily just fix, right? If you're in that station in life, which I have been in, so I know this shit. So to all the homies right now, bro, that spicy tuna roll can sit right fucking there. These people need to make some Campbell soup at their house. Stay the fuck home and stay safe, man. Come on now. Don't do it.
Hazardous conditions put delivery workers, drivers, and restaurant staff at risk. If you can do so, please look out for your fellow New Yorkers and prepare meals at home until the weather improves.
Goddamn right.
While the continuity of our children's education is of the utmost importance to ensure the safety of students, parents, and teachers throughout this storm, schools will be closed tomorrow. This will be New York City's first.
Now, I will say, people want to talk about Mamdani all the time, and I will say this is how Mamdani gets the youth vote. These kids won't be able to vote for God knows how long, but you know what? This is something they're going to remember. I don't know if you know this. If you're an older person, kids don't get snow days anymore. Like not how we used to. Remember, you used to, see snow outside. You wouldn't even care. It wouldn't even be on the news the day before. You just see snow outside, and then you'd run to the TV, and you're waiting for your name and your school's name and everything to go down. There's a little scrolly thing on the news, right? And you love it. As soon as you see your name, I'm going sledding for 3 hours today. That shit does not happen. They go, yo, it's terrible outside. These kids still need to learn remotely. That's how it is, man. That's how it is. It's cold out here for these young kids, man. No third spaces, no snow days. How do you have a childhood? I don't know. So shout out to Mamdani for hooking them up with one.
First old school snow day since 2019. The state requires us to conduct 180 days of education in a calendar year. However, we believe that there are a unique set of extenuating circumstances for tomorrow's education. We shared this with the state education commissioner earlier this morning, and she has granted us a waiver for which we are incredibly thankful. And to kids across New York City, you have a very serious mission if you choose to accept it. Stay cozy. Across the city, other non-essential city offices and services, including our libraries, will also be closed to the public. The Staten Island and New York City ferries will discontinue service beginning at 5 p.m. this evening and restart late Monday morning, rather. Alternate side parking will be suspended tomorrow. Our agency teams have been working around the clock to ready our city for this storm.
And he's saying that they spent a lot of time trying to ready the city for the storm. That's not a lie. You can see it now. Like there's even people like kind of prepped outside doing certain things. And that's not just in Manhattan. That's in Queens as well too. I've already seen a couple trucks with the whole scooper shovel thing in the front, ready to go either for tonight or in the early morning. Sorry about that, beer burps. But I think this is the reason I'm bringing this whole shit up is because, again, this brings into the whole property tax thing that's going on with him and Hochul, right? The city versus the state, right? New York's the biggest city in the country as far as, revenue and financially, right? We're the economic capital of the country and possibly the world, if you want to, go in about it like that, right? And we need a lot of things to happen. A lot of people, when he was talking about this whole property tax thing, and it's either tax the rich or tax regular middle class property owners and stuff like that, which obviously will cause major problems for not just those property owners, but for everybody, because that means that a lot of rents would be going up as well too. The cost of living would greatly affect the affordability that Mamdani has promised that he would bring back to this city. But it's an important thing because I think a lot of people are online freaking out about all this stuff. And they're like, yo, this dude promised this and that and da-da-da. Why does it have to be you punish the middle class people or you punish the rich people? Why can't we do this, do this? And, one thing is he has cut down a lot of spending. Like a lot of people are like, why is he trying to tax more? Why can't he just cut back on spending? They've cut back the most that they could on spending. And it's allowed them at least about $7 billion that they've cut back on spending. So everything else that he would need to cut additionally would literally hinder the city from functioning the way that it should function, and would hinder the city from helping out the people that they need to be helping out, especially when it comes to situations like this, right? People want to talk about government waste, and taxes, but a lot of times it's not that taxes are, or that the government is, necessarily wasting money. They're just putting money in the wrong places. And those can be two separate things, right? If we're talking federally, right, the government puts all our money in the military, right, and then everything else can kind of fall by the wayside, right? That's not necessarily wasting the taxes, because we do need a military, but they just need to be allotted correctly. I think they've kind of figured out how to, make their basic budget for the city, and that's one thing that he brought to Hochul a few days ago and everything. But now I think they're also realizing, like, we still need more. Like, the way we're allocating our money is important, and that's huge, right? But there is a massive deficit that Adams left us with. We still need more money, and that has to come from either the rich or the poor, and the poor are going through enough, so I think it should be the rich. And it's just, this is a really interesting thing, man. I wonder what's going to happen. I wish him the best of luck as far as all this stuff happening. And I think maybe this situation, this blizzard, is kind of the best timing he ever could have had, because this will display what we need taxes for, right? Situations like this are what we need taxes for. So hopefully this kind of hits home, and I think hopefully this will have a lot of New Yorkers, whether New York State people or people in the city, look at Hochul a little bit closer and really pay attention to the decisions that she is making as a governor of how to use the funds in New York City. So we'll see about that, man. We'll see about that. But enough about my favorite mayor. Let's go into the real reason why I decided to come out and make this pod so soon. That's because everybody has been eating me up on the internet over this Comics Explained bullshit. All right, first off, all you little Comics Explained cronies can back the fuck off, because I didn't really say anything about Comics Explained. All I did was report about Comics Explained. I never called Comics Explained a coon. I never called him weird. I never called him, some sort of Uncle Tom or anything like that. I just reported on the niggas who said that. Okay? It's a fact. And I don't mean, like, I'm sorry you got so triggered, but maybe you got so triggered because you know deep down a lot of that shit has some sort of merit, right? A hit dog is gonna holler, right? And I talked about it in the last video about how I don't necessarily like using that type of terminology against other black men. I don't like holding those sort of terms and viewpoints over them as some sort of, validation that they need to get from me to hold their own blackness, right? So I don't enjoy that. But if there are other black people that notice certain things and are willing to speak on it, then they're willing to speak on it, and that is on them. And not for nothing, they did have some points. And I don't say shit like that lightly, right? People in the comments kept on saying, like, Blue Marvel. And this is how I know people didn't watch the whole video. This is how I know people didn't watch the video. Number one, because my average view duration was only like 4 or 5 minutes. And the video is like 16 minutes, so I know they didn't watch the whole shit. But even if I didn't see that, I would know that, because the comments, which have been flooding me right now, are talking about Blue Marvel. It's like, nigga, yeah, I know Blue Marvel. I told you that he's talked about Blue Marvel. You know what I also said about Blue Marvel is the fact that he did Blue Marvel, and then people in the comments ate him up off that video because they're fucking racist. Because these niggas don't like black people that much. Because the comic community is a very, very alt-right white space. And that doesn't mean that there aren't, that there isn't diversity in the entire community. Number one, if we're talking about alt-right fascism, let's be 100% real, that tent has gotten a lot wider in the last 10 years, right? You go from, how we were raised in elementary school and middle school, when we think about certain fascists from a certain European country, right? And we would say that they only care about people with blonde hair and blue eyes, and only people with blonde hair and blue eyes are the people that worship that thought process. That is not the same today, right? A person will, because of the internet, I think, realistically, and because of how when people are chronically on the internet, they can erase who they actually are and completely live in delusion while still having their anonymity online. So the delusion gets even deeper, you know? So now you have people who are Nazis, who are Latino Nazis. You have black Nazis. You have tons and tons of white Nazis, right? And then also on top of that, you have people of color who just have simply low self-esteem, right? And I feel like that is where a lot of these types of situations come from. Now, when it comes to the comic book society and the comic book community, it's the same exact thing. I'm not saying that everybody who watches Comics Explained is a fucking Nazi. That's not true. That's fucking insane. That's a crazy thing to say. It's not real. I watch Comics Explained. I don't see myself as that. There are tons of amazing white people who watch Comics Explained who are not like that. All right? You like how I qualified that to hold everybody's hand and make them feel good about themselves and not racist, okay? But let's be real. Like I said, the comic book community has always dealt with that shit. And now, because the internet, like the 4chan fascism community has grown, the black nerd community has grown, the Latino nerd community has grown, the Asian, the Asian Western comic book community has grown. Like Asian people who, sure they fuck with animated, but they fuck with DC and Marvel a lot more. That has grown too. It's all grown, right? And we all interact with each other a lot more than we used to, right? A lot of people of color used to feel alone when it came to comic books and stuff. I still remember growing up in suburban New Jersey and going to this place, the little shop of comics and cards in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, right? And that's where I walked to every single day after school, in middle school, spend my little $5 that I would save. My mom gave me money for lunch. I'd get a little bit, something for lunch and then save up whatever to buy comics at the end of the day, right? And I walked in there every day. And I will tell you, that woman who owned that store looked me up and down every day and followed me around every fucking day. And that's not to say that the entire community was racist, right? But I will say that this is something that the comic book community in general has had to deal with. And it's not because the comic books are inherently racist. It's not like that. It's just that we live in America, and America has problems with racism, and that extends into every single thing that America does and what American people do. That's it. So I don't know what to tell you guys, man. Comic Explained seems like a cool dude, but he also seems a little bit delusional. He recently was on this dude Saro's TV doing this whole explanation campaign, I guess, that he's doing. And you know what I will give to Comics Explained, right? Because everybody wants to call him a coon, they want to call him this, they want to call him that, right? They want to shit on him and everything because he's not doing enough black stuff. But I will give to Comics Explained, he's getting his back kicked in with so many people. You know what I will give to Comics Explained is he's getting his back kicked in by so many people of color that now I'm learning new black YouTubers who focus on comics. So I can't be that mad at him, because if it wasn't for him being called a coon, I wouldn't have found half these niggas on here that I now subscribe to and watch. So shout out to him. But let's watch him kind of squirm a little bit and I think come to terms with the way that he's being seen. And I think there does need to be a little bit of analysis on this and the way that he's conducting himself.
Spare people dealing with all that bullshit for 30 minutes. Yeah, I'll happily do that.
I believe
I'll do that
it's
with a smile on my face.
I think it's the ambiguity that leaves people turning against you. I would say the tribal mentality of it all is a little bit disparaging, right? I'm sure you hate it, right? You hate it, yes.
I mean, I don't know if I would chalk it all up to tribal mentality. I mean, there's certainly some individuals out there who are just like, Comics Explained has controversy, right? Let's get the clicks, But I think there's some people out there that are legitimately like, I mean, I'm a huge fan. Like, how much of this is true, right? Like, where does this guy stand in it all?
And you know what? I got to give it to Comics Explained. he is somebody who I do think has a good amount of self-awareness and is decently honest about himself. I don't think there's necessarily like personal flaws in him as a human being. You know what I mean? Like there's shit just missing. I think there's just, maybe he just wasn't raised a certain way, and so he's just not paying attention to certain stuff. He has certain denials about things. But I think he's self-aware enough and he's a good enough guy that he's starting to see the point that people are making. And I do like how he's not kicking and screaming as much as a lot of people would in this situation. Also, I feel like the dude over here kind of reminds me of the guy from Afro Samurai. You know, remember that, like, what is that little like ghost character or whatever? Who's like, damn, Afro. He kind of reminds me of him. Anyway.
Yeah, if you run a YouTube channel, and you don't really make your personal politics known, nobody really knows where you stand, and then somebody fires up a video and they start accusing you of racism, then, I mean, where's the evidence to say it's not true?
True.
There really isn't anything for.
And that is completely true, and that's a very, very real thing. But I feel like I wish he would have thought of that before all this happened, right? I think there's not really, I won't say there's a full-on duty to be like, I believe in this ideology and I am this presenter. No, but I do think when you feel like your community is leaning toward a certain demographic or thought process, if you are not part of that thought process, you do have a bit of a duty to tell them that and to disclose that and maybe show a little bit more of yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, if you don't stand on your principles, then all you are is about money. And, money just, it's not everything. It's not everything. And I'm not the only one that believes that. The more money guides you, the less people have respect for what you think.
Anybody to pull. There's no video for anybody to pull up, on the Commentators Explained channel where they say, well, here's Rob where Rob lines out his political views. So like clearly that's not true, that doesn't exist, so yeah.
Do you enjoy the ambiguity?
Yes. Yes, he does.
To a degree. I mean, the reality here is like we're living in extreme times.
And that's the core of it, man. That's the core of it. I think, there's a lot of people who've talked about him in general and what they think he believes. And I'm kind of in the same boat. I think he is a bit more liberal. He'll talk about it in this video about how he doesn't support ICE and certain things like that. But I definitely think he is a bit more on the right side, whether or not it was a family upbringing that had brought him here, or just personal things in his life that brought him there. That's on him. He has the right to believe those things, but he definitely believes those things on a certain level. You're right. And listen, I guess he has the right to. It's just one of those things. It sucks, but I guess it just is who he is. I don't know. It's weird because he is somebody who has said like, hey, I don't like ICE. I don't like this. But I also feel like if this conversation goes deeper and deeper and deeper, I think there's going to be some Coon adjacent views. There, I said it. There's gonna be some shuck and jive thoughts that are there, and what they may mean, I don't really know for him, but it's just kind of ridiculous, bro. It's like, bro, just pay attention to the way the world is. And I was one of those people that about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I used to say, oh, people are nuanced and right, both sides, and there's so many different things, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was always Black Lives Matter and very, very, like, leftist, but still being more open to the concept of both sides. But now I feel like both sides has gotten so vile and disgusting that you can't really go both sides. It's like, it's the right that is saying, hey, we would like to annihilate people who don't look a certain way and don't believe in the Christian doctrine. And then there's this side that's just like, hey, whoever you are is okay, and we should be giving more to the populace, which is what the government is here for. I can't really find much of a nuance between those two things. And to me, that's what really kind of gets under my skin about all this stuff. And I'm going to speed it up here. I think he was talking about some other stuff too. He already says that he doesn't like Trump and he doesn't like ICE. So I like at least like that. But even being a Republican at this point is just like you've lost the plot.
Yeah.
Right. Like something that you pointed out, in your video yesterday, and that's the reason why I talked to you, because you seem like one of the few people who wouldn't immediately just be like open up, like, so Rob, why are you racist? Who would like immediately reject me? And I completely get, right? I mean, there are some people who are just kind of who have already made up their mind, right? And I'm not going to try to convince people who've already made up their mind. Hopefully they change their mind, yeah, but I'm not going to go out of the way to convince them. But I mean, let's literally address the thing directly, right? Like, Ernie described critical drinker and nerdrotic as white supremacists. I don't know that I would define them as white supremacists because I'm not aware of them advocating for like Black people losing their rights, for like us being, being sent back to the 60s, like Black people, you can use these bathrooms, and white people, you.
See, now this is my thing too, and this is where I was talking about where maybe it might be a little bit of upbringing. Number one, I haven't watched Nerdrotic or Critical Drinker. I haven't watched any of their videos. I know in the last video I said maybe I'll check them out. I don't want to check them out because at this point I've watched so many different videos of all these different Black creators, and they have essentially told me that, yeah, these guys, they make a lot of racist comments. And even here within this, Rob will eventually start talking about why they have the point of views that they do. So it'll be some sort of critique of like, oh, I don't like this character, but the reason that they don't like that character is because they were changed to a Black person, not because they don't like the dynamics or the story development of that character. And I've always been somebody who is against stuff like that. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of race swapping every time in a movie. It can get annoying. In fact, I think that is sort of the function of it, to annoy people so that people talk about it on the internet, so that hopefully people will at least hate watch it, because there's so many different things that occupy people's minds that they don't think they can necessarily get you to watch things out of pleasure anymore. They would rather place their bet on you getting angry and agitated, tuning into it and being pleasantly surprised by the product that they make, than you getting everything you think you want, but because you have everything else that's curated to you, you put that thing to the back burner and you watch it 3 months from now rather than watching it in the weekend that it's released. So I think that's what a lot of stuff comes from. Well, back onto the white supremacist thing, I think our people need to change their idea what they think a white supremacist is. I think if you are someone who conducts in white supremacy in any real palatable way, you are in fact a white supremacist. I think you could even make the case that a person who's just like a regular old, kind of racist, you know what I mean? Like an old grandma who isn't controlling people's policies and maybe doesn't think we should go back to segregation, but feels uncomfortable when a Black person walks by and she covers her purse. I think you can make the argument that that woman is a white supremacist as well, right? A white supremacist isn't necessarily a quote unquote Nazi, right? A white supremacist is just someone who upholds the values of white supremacy. And brother, that is a long, long list. But there's a lot of people that I think because of the way that they're grown up, they purposely deny microaggressions, and they purposely deny the signs of white supremacy because they don't want to make things awkward. They don't want to be the odd man out. They don't want to deal with any of that type of bullshit. And a lot of times maybe they were the more palatable Black person, right? So they get treated kind of well, and they're afraid that, if I say something, then I'm not going to get treated well, and I'm going to be the one who's difficult, and all my friends, because they are these people's friends, right? This is their support system, are going to abandon me, so I'm not going to say anything. And it leads to this. It leads to, hey, my friends, or hey, this person I watch, or hey, this person who posts on Twitter, who I follow, yes, they make some racist comments, they say things that are based on race, but they're not saying that every black person needs to get sprayed with fire hoses and lynched, so therefore they are not a white supremacist, which just simply isn't true.
Use these bathrooms. Now, are there certainly like racist connotations to their videos? Yeah. And like, do some of them contain racist sentiment? Sure. You can't stand up and say, I don't like that Sam Wilson is Captain America, and then say nothing when Barry Allen replaces Wally West, right? Or Wally West replaces Barry, post-crisis. If your position is, I don't like it when classic characters get replaced with new ones, then you don't get to pick and choose based on race. And even if they're not actually racist, it comes across that way. Having said that, I'm not really sure where people are getting the idea that like I watch their videos and subscribe to their channels and all that kind of stuff. I just follow them on Twitter. Right? I've never seen a video from Critical Drinker or Nerdrotic, and I'm certainly not subscribed to their channels. One of the things that you pointed out, and it was a really interesting point, one of the things you pointed out is you said, well, simply following them on social media is an endorsement. And I don't know if I agree with that statement, because to me, following them on social media is no different than me watching CNN and Fox News, right? Like, to me, endorsing those guys would be if I gave them a platform, if I retweeted the things they said, and if I liked the things they said, if I pushed my audience to them and said, guys, you 100% need to check these content creators out. Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic have their finger on the pulse of it all. If I were saying things like that, sure. But I've never talked to them. I've never interacted with them in a meaningful way, right? Like
And I get what he's saying. He's like, yo, listen, like, these are just guys I follow on Twitter. And listen, in the last video, I did kind of come to his defense in that sense, right? A follow isn't necessarily an endorsement. But I also feel like when you don't make your ideals known, a follow can definitely be an endorsement. And in fact, the fact that he's following them and not quote unquote hate watching them, like I was saying that I do with certain people, that is a problem, because he'll kind of go on to say that he watches these people, and in other videos he said it as well too. He watches these people because he wants an alternative point of view. But if that alternative point of view is racism and you're actually entertaining that as an actual point of view, then it's essentially useless, and you are a problem and you are an accomplice to what these people are. Now, if you're just hate watching it, and either you're watching these people to make content about how stupid they are later, to inform other people not to involve themselves in these people's content, that is one thing. If you're hate watching it to just get high and laugh at somebody who's so vastly lost in the world, another acceptable thing. I think personally, that is me, and I don't think I'm the only one who does this, because you see tons and tons of live streamer people who all they do is talk about how this guy or that guy fucked up again, and that guy that they're talking about is the opposite of what they believe in. They would never know that if they never watched them, right? So I don't think I'm the first one who is on YouTube who watches people that I find despicable. But the problem is, he doesn't think these guys are despicable. That's the issue. And he still seems to be in denial of everybody else and why they think they're despicable. And it's like, yeah, I just watch them to have fun because maybe they have some good ideas. I don't think so. I don't think Robert E. Lee had any good ideas, and I don't think these guys had any good ideas, and I don't think Mr. H had any good ideas either, okay? Because that's what happens when you say shit like that, right? When you go, hey, I'm just listening to get a different, nice little change of pace. It's like, well, why do you want to be at that pace? The fuck is wrong with this guy? But that's just me.
I simply just follow them on Twitter. And somehow or another, that's just kind of been turned into, well, Rob is perfectly content, with like racially motivated opinions. And I think to a degree, this is where the kind of tribal mentality comes into play, right? Like, you can agree with a person's point without agreeing for the reason behind it, right? So, for example, like Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic came along, and they're avidly against Sam Wilson being Captain America, right? And they'll come along and they'll say, You know, Captain America: Brave New World sucked. Right, that movie was just very poorly received, and it was very done because Sam Wilson is Captain America. Okay, I can agree with the fact that the movie was poorly done. I can agree with the fact that it didn't perform well at the box office. And then I can reject the reasoning, which is that it's because Sam Wilson is Captain America. No, that's not really the reasoning at all. It was just a really shitty movie with a really shitty plot, right? That's why the movie performed poorly.
So you don't want
Well, I would say this, my rebuttal to that would be in the sense of, yes, you could agree with the sentiment without agreeing with the reasoning, but the reasoning informs how valid that sentiment is. And if the reasoning is dog shit, then you have to remove yourself from those people, right? That's really what my thing is. Unless your viewpoint is these are terrible people and I'm here to pick them apart for how terrible they're being, right? But if it's not that, then you have to push them away, right? Because like he's saying with the whole Sam Wilson thing, right? Like you're tolerating these people, even if you don't agree with Sam Wilson, he's black and that's why I shouldn't. You're still tolerating that kind of thought process, and even tolerating it is kind of a death sentence when it comes to these kind of ideologies and how people view you, right? And that's a really interesting thing. Like, for instance, somebody can make a sentiment that dating is too expensive, right? That's a sentiment that a lot of people would probably agree with. But if somebody said, yeah, dating is too expensive because when I take out my stepdaughter who's a teenager, you'd be like, whoa, 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 right? Get this guy. Someone get this guy. Turn on Not Like Us and get this guy, right? That's what would happen. You wouldn't be like, well, I can still keep this guy as like a friend because it's like, no, how did you get to that reasoning? What is that reasoning? And because you have that reasoning, I can't fuck with you. But that's just my thoughts when it comes to all this
watch
stuff.
their content. Do they give this take on Twitter?
Yes.
And this is another thing too, where, this dude, Saros TV, he goes in on him, when it comes to, hey, people pay attention to what you do. So you are kind of a role model for people. So when you follow these people, you're kind of normalizing it. I agree with that as well too on a certain level. But my real thing is just the bigger issue is just the fact that if you are going to watch them, you have to hate watch them. You have to make fun of them. You have to pick them apart. There has to be some function rather than I just want to see what they have to say. Because when you're living in the world of I just want to see what they have to say, that means on some level you think what they have to say is valid, and it's not. It's just not. Anyway, let's get off the Comics Explained stuff. If anybody has any more reasons to hate me, leave them in the comments. Let's talk about Akash Singh, man. This is something that I did not expect to come back, but apparently Akash has been having a very, very hard time on the Flagrant Pod. A lot of you know the whole history between him and his wife, Ghislaine, right? And basically they were married, or they are married. She had a podcast. She started posting on TikTok. A lot of people felt that she was embarrassing him. This became a huge internet thing. And they even had her on for an episode to kind of explain herself for her supposed alleged embarrassment of her husband. Now, that was a very, very rough thing. That episode did not go so well. I actually made an episode on my YouTube channel about their episode of the podcast, how ridiculous it was, how Andrew Schultz was a bad friend for putting on this pod or whatever, and how, it just embarrassed Akash further. That being said, the internet has a constant 24-hour influx of information coming by, and a lot of people kind of seem to forget this stuff, or at least I did. But it turns out that their entire fan base has not, and this is actually true because I don't really listen to the podcast very much, but I am on Reddit a lot, and I am in the Reddit thread of the podcast, and they still shit on this one. They still shit on this woman every chance they get, and apparently it's gotten even into the comments, and in certain episodes, Akash is not in these episodes, and I think it might be because he's struggling with the ridicule, or just I don't know, different shit with his wife. So let's check out what academics has to say about all this, because it has become an issue. It has become an issue, man, and I think we need to talk about this larger culture too that I like to call internet cuck culture. And so let's discuss it, but let's watch this first.
Miles is such a good house guest.
100%.
Such a good.
Okay. So it looks, I don't know, maybe he's on tour or something like that, right? Probably that. Look at this. Look, chat, I told you. Look, I swore I told you. Look, click video, pause video, read comments. I told y'all, bro. Like, their community is dope, but it's kind of, did I win? I fucking lost? What? Did I fucking lose? Yo, so Flagrant's comment section.
I will say this. I can't wait till the time where I get popular enough that I can do a podcast or a live stream and then be actively gambling while doing it, and no one calls me a piece of shit. That's how high like academics is as far as like being like recognized. Like he can just do whatever he wants. You know what I mean? He's drinking on stream. He's hanging out. Right? He'll just be like eating food. Like you ever see Hassan? Right, Hassan Abi or Hassan Piker, whatever the fuck they call him. Great guy, hilarious guy. Love his stuff, but he'll just be like eating dinner on the microphone in front of like 1,000 viewers. And it's just like, God, it must be great to get to that point where you just tear down a fucking 3-piece, a 3-piece and a biscuit in front of everybody. Nobody gives a fuck. Look at him. He has a do-rag on, just chilling.
It's dope. But nigga, like they have a dope community, which means they're active. But bro, when something happens, that's all they want to talk about, bro. Look, let's just read the comment. Like that's what they're saying. Jasleen is about to call ICE on shit. Don't think we forgot Akash. What? This is 3 comments in a row. That's not even about the video. I think our wife is at a bachelor party tonight. What? They're still talking about his wife. I feel like a nuke could have launched today and all the comments would still be talking about Akash and his wife. Bruh.
Yeah. And, this is a major thing, man. Number one, it doesn't surprise me because the space that Flagrant 2, Andrew Schultz, and all those guys lives in is kind of the red pill space. They're like diet red pill, right? It's not that they necessarily believe in all that stuff, but a lot of their fans are like into that shit. Andrew Tate and all that dumbass bullshit, right? So when something like this happens and your fucking wife makes you look stupid as fuck, everybody's gonna be on it, right? They're gonna see you as quote unquote not a real man. I definitely think there are some issues with it. He shouldn't let his wife treat him like that. But I also think a lot of these people in the comments need to watch themselves, because if we put their lives under a fucking magnifying glass, you would see them in their mom's basement right now, fucking jerking off for the 10th time, with no girlfriend and no wife in sight. So, I mean, let's guess whose life is better. The Indian guy who's a millionaire, or some dude who's balding and has a wrist splint from playing World of Warcraft too long. I don't know.
Shit, I'm not going to lie to you. 5 comments in, none about the pod. 6 comments. She knows the size of boats. Oh, my God. 6 comments in. Here's the 7th in a row. Don't let this distract you from the fact that so-and-so, I want to say her name consistently, that Jasleen had a roster of frat boys. Next comment. ICE kidnapped Akash from the thumbnail. Somebody says, Flagrant is clocking about half the views before the Jasleen gate. Did I win that? Okay, I did win that. Okay.
Jesus Christ.
All right, they're going to burn a card.
Just gambling while you're talking about some of his life falling apart. Crazy. Boss move, but crazy.
Chat, there's been no comments about the video, and we're almost at 10 deep. Pause. And we're going from top comments, right? Okay, hurry up, bro.
And again, this doesn't really surprise me, man. I will say this. I feel like the alt-right crowd is really losing a lot of steam. Number one, because their entire fan base is getting older, right? So that's a major thing. Their entire fan base is getting older. Number two is a lot of these guys that they worship are heavily problematic. And what makes it even worse is that these guys that are problematic were trying to show that other men were problematic. You know, someone like Andrew Tate, you know, was probably running around talking about Epstein and this guy and that guy, and this guy's a pussy, and this guy's weird, and this person's liberal, so that means they don't believe in this, that, and the third. Meanwhile, he's being investigated for trafficking of certain people, right? Same thing when it comes to the QAnon stuff, right? These liberals, Donald Trump is trying to protect us from all these liberals, and they're the ones who are drinking baby blood and doing all this shit, right? And we need to protect Donald Trump from the deep state. Little do they know, this man is the deep state. So I think a lot of these things are mixing together. And I also feel like, too, when you have a culture, this internet culture, right, this red pill male culture, or like I was saying, this like internet cuck culture, which is essentially red pill culture, there's only so high you can go, right? Because you got to think about it. What's the antithesis of that, right? It's not really beta male culture. I think the real opposite of all this performative alpha male culture is just being a regular guy, right? And a regular guy is just chilling, man. He's just chilling. Sometimes he works out, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he drinks, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he gets laid, sometimes he doesn't. Sometimes he smokes weed, sometimes he doesn't, right? And it's just you living your life, you maintaining, you just trying to be a good person, and being friendly to people, and maybe prioritizing your girl and brotherhood, right? You and your homies, right? And that's it. That's what normal people do. These guys make the smallest parts of your life the biggest parts of your life, right? Now you have to focus on working out 24 hours, 24/7. When you talk to girls, you can't just talk to them. You have to have a certain vocabulary and, all these different words that you use, and if she doesn't know those words, then she's worthless for some reason, right? There's so much shit that you have to learn, and there's so much performing that you have to do. And every time you do it, it has to top the last time that you did it. And I feel like once you live in that world, you have no choice but to eventually fall off. Whereas a guy who's just sitting around maintaining is just a guy who's just sitting around maintaining, right? And so you're going to see a lot of people fall back into these worlds of just normal dudes. Like, 5 years ago, you'd have the farthest, an alt-right red pill would be in the mainstream sector would be somebody like Kevin Samuels. Now, the farthest that someone would be in that world is someone like this dude, Clavicular, right? And this guy, he's in that whole looks maxing community. I've tried not to really talk about this guy ever at all because I think he's ridiculous, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it went from like fast cars, hot girls, with like a little bit of, alt-right Nazism sprinkled in to being like, you need to reconstruct your face because you are not good enough. And on top of reconstructing your face, every way you look is designed on like a point system, right? And like, if you don't add up to these points, then you physically do not have worth as a human being. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. I know some of you guys have been hearing about this guy, Clavicular. He's pretty new on the IRL space. I'm not huge into this stuff. I watch people like, or not really watch them, but, I'll see little clips of people like Sneeko, Aiden Ross. DJ Academics is the one I watch the most, but you'll see people like Clavicular kind of sneak in, and he's kind of become this new guy that's there. And I think it's because he is good looking. He does seem to be relatively tall. And he's very, very alt-right, regardless of whether or not he is full on announcing it like some people previously. I actually think that's the smartest thing about him is he sits around and he kind of promotes these viewpoints through the looks maxing lens, right? That the European image is the image to aspire to, right? That even if you are a European ancestry born white man, your face can still be improved to look more Anglo-Saxon and look more beautiful. And yeah, I mean, he's literally a 20-year-old guy who gets paid to give teenage boys body dysmorphia, right? And this is where these are how these things go, right? And you know, you would see 5 years ago, you saw someone like Andrew Tate, and you're like, how can we get crazier than this? And this is what it is. Not only is he giving kids, body dysmorphia, but he's also a flaming racist who uses the N-word all the time. He's also very, very alt-right and essentially a Nazi. He was there during the Heil Hitler video, right, with Myron Gross. We talked about Big Tent, yeah, along with them. And now it is supposed that he might be getting paid by Peter Thiel. You heard that right. You heard that right. This IRL influencer might be getting paid by Peter Thiel. So let's go into this, because I've wanted to kind of talk about this guy for a minute, and it needs to be talked about. This whole look maxing, IRL streamer to Nazi pipeline. Like, it really is. It starts with Aiden Ross, then it goes to Andrew Tate, then it leads to guys like Clavicular, and the next thing you know, you're in the sickest, grossest, most Aryan-esque chat rooms you've probably ever been in your entire life. Do kids use chat rooms anymore? I don't know. Let's play.
Oh, he'll appear on your channel for an interview if you pay him $7,000. Yeah, that was back in 2019, and obviously that didn't happen. But I digress. If she's paying 15 grand for a 30-minute interview, I'd imagine that she would be pretty selective with the kind of questions because, she doesn't have a lot of time. And I guess specifically, she started bringing up Peter Thiel. And
yes, so a little bit of context for this. There's this other influencer named Micah something or other. Very attractive woman. She interviews like famous people, some semi-famous people, some internet famous people. It's a mishmash of people. Pays them to go on. She apparently interviewed Clavicular because he's kind of skyrocketing right now, and then brought up Peter Thiel, which caused him to basically have some sort of meltdown about the whole issue and try to flip it on her and say that she was paid by Peter Thiel. So,
mentioning the times that Clavicular has brought him up on stream. And that's when she said that she thought that Peter Thiel might also be funding Clavicular.
I love the fact that he said, that she said he was funded by Peter Thiel, and then he just said that she was. I feel like that's the Gen Z version of I'm not gay, you're gay. Right? I'm not funded by a dystopian capitalist. You're funded by a dystopian capitalist. What is going on? Also, it's okay to be gay, guys. Open up.
Now, the tone just completely shifts. Clavicular then gets very defensive. He flips it back on her and accuses her of being funded by Peter Thiel instead.
Palantir is a security surveillance company. They actually teamed up with XAI.
I will also say she probably is the worst person to do this. Seems like a nice woman. It's not that she's dumb or anything. It just doesn't necessarily seem in her wheelhouse when it comes to geopolitics and just political intrigue. I don't know how equipped she is. This is where we're at in our civilization. This is our Frost Nixon. With just some hot girl just being like, so I've heard that Peter Thiel is building some evil robots that are gonna kill all the poor people. And last time you did a commercial paid promotion for him, which is fine, but when I watched your YouTube video, it didn't have the paid promotion logo up there, and I feel like that's not chill, and that's kind of cap. This is where we're at. This is what life is.
Kind of do experiments to get data and stuff like that, and Peter Thiel is Palantir.
I was told that you actually work for Peter Thiel.
I was told that you, ma'am, are actually a corporate shill. Me? No way. The looks maxing Nazi? Absolutely not.
Well, that's because all of the Thiel.
Also, he's wearing etnies. It's the most 2008 sneaker I've ever seen in my life. No, those aren't etnies. They look like etnies, though. Shout out to my millennials. used to rock NDs all the fucking time. They're fly.
Associates follow you on X.
Who are the Teal associates?
The people from like the fashion stuff. That's kind of what it seems like. You are actually Teal funded. You are clearly like backed by.
I would also like to disclose that I am Teal funded. I've been looks maxing for quite some time now. A lot of you guys can tell because of how beautifully chiseled my face is. And I just want to say, like, Peter Thiel, thank you for all the money. You don't give much, but it does allow me to have 2 other roommates in New York City. And, I'm appreciative for what you give me. Hopefully one day I can be a peasant in your new order of techno-feudalism. Thank you, Peter. Hell yeah.
Weird organizations and you
Swear to
lied.
God, they fund other things.
You
Like
moved out
I
of
thought.
the lowest theme.
No, but I thought it was funding you because the group of men and stuff like
Listen,
that. They
these
don't
people
want.
I thought it was funding you because he, like, gives you money.
are all following you on X. I asked around about you. You're part of these groups. You're trying to, come here and do some hit piece interview.
Okay, so he claims that his team found blockchain ties linking her to Teal-backed groups. What? She completely denies it. This all feels incredibly stupid, but if you don't know who Peter Thiel is, without going into way too much detail, he's a billionaire, a part of what many people call the PayPal mafia.
Possibly one of the most evil billionaires we've ever known in history. But let him finish. He's right.
Was an early investor in Facebook. He founded Palantir, which is, quite the controversial company. And there's been some dumb rumors about Clavicular being funded by Peter, which is why I think Mika brought him up. I don't really think she was trying to start anything with that question, but he decided to end the interview after that and tells her to leave on stream.
Let me just wait here for a while. Like, don't be like.
Well, you could wait in the lobby over there.
Dude,
Just wait in the lobby.
this is nuts.
Well, you just in the lobby.
This is the Peter Thiel.
In the lobby.
I wonder, how many times do you think he said lobby in this clip? If he says lobby one more time, I'm going to take a shot.
Go.
Well, at least she was coconut water.
Your mics. Here you go.
That was coconut water mix.
Here you
It's
go.
mine.
Oh wait, no,
that's
these are.
yours.
Oh yeah, these are ours. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Hold on.
I mean, all of this just kind of seems like a LARP. I think he just wanted a clip farm, but she's also a controversial character because, as he mentioned, there are her involvement with Pump Fun and various meme coins. But if you're confused at who Clavicular is and what the hell Frymaxing is, good. Thankfully, you've dodged all of this. Because honestly, learning about Clavicular feels like you've just walked into season 9 of a show that shouldn't exist.
Yeah, I will admit to this. Learning who Clavicular is like smoking salvia. You ever smoke salvia? Everything's upside down, man. Everything's upside down. Words don't mean anything. Right? You don't know where you're at. It's a world of chaos. That is what dealing with Clavicular is like, and that is what some of these children are watching every day. They're putting that into their heads every day while given nothing in school to teach them how to think critically. It's a shame.
To sum it up, he's a 20-year-old IRL streamer who blew up off of looks maxing content, which translated into English means obsessing over jawlines, bone smashing his own cheekbones, blasting very questionable substance.
Yeah. It's basically Aryan ideology without calling itself Aryan ideology. It started off as a bunch of guys, mostly white, that simply just wanted to look better, and I'm not saying that was in the best place. Obviously, you don't want to support any sort of body dysmorphia, anorexia, any of that type of stuff. But it was just dudes trying to improve their bodies at first. But this is clearly grown into something that is far darker, and it's kind of molded with the red pill community to basically tell boys, boys in general, but focusing mostly on young white boys, that they are never going to be worth anything if they don't constantly change themselves in the way that they look. And that even if you are a dog shit now, don't worry, there's always someone under you because of the system that they rate people and based on their looks and stuff like that. And it's sad. It's sad, man. And hopefully a lot of them can get out of it with time. Because I remember being a kid, and for us, we didn't necessarily have Clavicular, but we had, the pickup artist community, right? That guy like Mystery, right? He had that TV show, The Pickup Artist, and all that type of stuff. And it was stupid. There were some like decent points, right, in that with like, have more confidence and all that type of stuff. But it fucked up the game. It fucked up the game in a lot of ways. Number one, it gave dudes a lot of dumb ideas because it's like, if I do these specific things, then this should equal that, which it never equals that. Men, we want like equations and concrete answers, and women just don't really live in that world. It's not always this plus this equals that when it comes to women in relationships. So it can be a very, very harsh thing. And then another thing too was that a lot of the stuff when it came to the pickup artist kind of fucked up what flirting was. Like oh my God, when women learned what like negging was, like just playfully flirting like came to an end. You would have to fight tooth and nail to be able to playfully flirt. Because that's all really that negging is, right? It's not necessarily being malicious, right? But it's like a little bit of teasing, right? Which is how we're raised off of, getting the opposite sex to pay attention to us, or how we're raised to play around with the opposite sex. And there's nothing wrong with teasing when it comes to relationships, or even just friends of the same gender. Like there's nothing wrong with, busting a little bit of balls and being fun. That shows familiarity. But because of the pickup artist thing of like, you have to neg this girl and all that shit, it's just like, it just made things a lot harder. And anytime you were trying to be just like a genuine regular guy, if some woman, had her guard up because she dealt with a lot of fucking douchebags, you had to deal with that. That was your cross to bear. So, and it was all because of some fucking asshole in a feathered Jamiroquai hat. Fucking asshole, dude.
To get hollow cheeks, and speaking almost entirely in Gen Z terms. He also has a very nihilistic view of the world and boils down his own value based on how close he can get to what he perceives as physical perfection, or mogging, as he actually says it. As I said in my last video, he's trying to get as close as possible to the handsome Squidward meme. So essentially, the dude is trading life longevity to look better in the short term. But I also feel like he's an outcome of a generation where more than ever base their value on how they think others perceive them. And this is due to, social media, dating apps, and the overall attention economy. But when it comes to attention, it's working for him, as the New York Times actually ended up covering him just last week. And here they published an article titled "Handsome at Any Cost." And the Times described his philosophy as seeing the world as a Darwinian nightclub full of aggressive men jockeying for status.
And, this is true, man. I will say, like, places like the New York Times and different articles and different news outlets seem to be following this dude. And this is, I will be real, it kind of proves his point in a certain way. Because it shows you how broken the world is, where all you need to do is be a very, very good-looking white guy, and no matter what you're saying, it'll kind of just be tolerated. Right? And also too, people need to really be talking about the alt-right shift that a lot of these news outlets have been going under, especially under the Trump administration. So it's kind of crazy, man. This whole clavicular stuff, I don't know what's going to happen with it. Maybe he'll get into a car accident and have his face tragically disfigured like Vanilla Sky. But, a man can only hope. Anyway, that has been the pod, guys. Thank you so much for watching the podcast. We have a lot of stuff to talk about next week. I might even be going live in a few days. We're going to keep you up to snuff, up to date. There you go. Up to date on whatever's happening with the pod. Lots of good stuff, lots of fun videos, and I'm going to be making some videos in between the pod videos as well too. So you're going to get a lot of stuff. Thank you for all the new viewers. Thank you for all the new subscribers. I've been seeing a lot of people subscribe to the channel, so I'm very, very happy about that. We need to reach this monetization, okay? I am right there at the cusp. I am at, I think, 1,280 public watch time hours. That's not that much. That's not that much. But if we all work together, I can reach 3,000 very, very quickly. I need you guys to help me out. Throw some likes, throw some shares in there. Comment on the videos, show your boy some love, and as usual, I'll see you next week. All right, peace.